Welcome to my office. But no, you're not going to get a tour. Why? Because it's a mess. So, told you from the get-go that I'm a pastor, first and foremost. I also go to seminary, so I'm working on some master stuff, and I have a lot of books laying around here on the desk that I'm reading right now, so it's a bit of a mess, and you're not going to get a tour. You can see a few books on the shelves back there. Those aren't the good books, right? The good books are over there. I'm not going to show them to you, though. That's not what this channel's about, right? This channel's about firearms. So, we are going to do a video. Again, I keep saying we. Well, I mean, you're coming along with me, right? I do the things, but you come along and you see. We're going to do a little video about reloading. So annealing has to do with reloading. And I have a plan to show you a couple of different annealers and kind of what it is. And for those of you out there that are saying, well, I don't know, what does he mean, anneal? So just for a second, let me talk about what annealing is and why it's important. So your rifle is chambered for your ammunition to go inside of it. Every time a round goes off in your chamber, so you stick, this is an empty round. Let's say, let's see if it focuses. Yeah, it focuses pretty good. All right, so 6.5 Creedmoor is what this is, but your rifle is chambered for this cartridge, if it's 6.5 Creedmoor, right, to fit in there with just a little bit of play, right? You got it fits pretty snug, but there's a little bit of play. Usually have, you know, anywhere from a couple thousandths to maybe even 10,000ths of an inch of gap between where your shoulders are and where your chamber, where the shoulders meet the chamber. So there's a little bit of gap in there. So what happens every time you pull the trigger and this goes off, so your primer goes off, of course powder goes off, bullet goes out, that's an explosion. And when that happens, this brass, it expands out into that chamber and fits in there nice and firm. So your shoulder goes out closer, it stops. But the idea behind it is that you just created an explosion inside of your chamber, and now this piece of brass has formed itself to the inside of your chamber. So why would we need to anneal, and what is annealing? So because that explosion happens, this metal, this brass, expands. When we go to reload this casing, we're going to have to run it through a die to resize it, to either resize the just the neck only or full length resize. Now, I recommend a full length resize. I only full length resize. I don't neck size. So the brass has had an explosion go off. It has expanded to form the chamber of the rifle, and now we're going to put this brass back to the basically where it was at specs, or where it was at what they call the semi-specs, whatever that is. But I mean, I know what that is. I'm just not going to get into it. It brings it back down to the proper size so it will fit in your chamber again. Now, let me ask you this. Have you ever taken a paper clip and opened the paper clip up and then bent it, and then bent it back, and then bend it again and bend it back, or any kind of little small metal, right? And you bend it and you bend it and you bend it, and then finally, it's not too long, the paper clip breaks. Well, that can happen to this brass, because if you're reloading ammunition, or reloading brass, I mean, it is reloading ammunition, but every time the explosion happens, the brass expands to the chamber, and then you resize it through your die, bring it back down to spec so it will fit into your chamber. You are doing what's called cold working it. So you have you are work hardening the brass. It's the same principle as the paper clip or a little metal. When you bend it and break it, bend it, or you bend it over and over and over and over, it ends up becoming hard and brittle, and it breaks. The same thing will happen to this, right? And the biggest changes, or the most places where changes are made in this, is right at the neck area. So just above the shoulder here, all of this right here is what really changes. Because even if you just neck size, say you leave the body the same size, even if you just neck size, this is going to get worked over and over and over. So it's just like that paper clip. It's being bent, bent back, bent back, until it becomes hard and brittle. Now, the cool thing about brass, and I don't know the technical part of this, so don't hold me to having to be real technical here. So I don't know the technical all the technical language included in exactly what happens, but there is annealing is taking this brass, and it's because of the properties that brass has, and you can heat. Oh, I want that. It's not. There we go. You can heat this up to a certain temperature. It's right around 750 degrees. And when you do that, the molecules in this metal will realign, and it will become basically just like it was when it was new. So it takes that hardening out. So now you're not you have pretty much put it back into like it was when it was new. Now, what does that do? That allows you, if you reload and you want to shoot a lot out of the same brass, it gives you longer life on the brass. So that's a really good thing to do. We like to have longer. I like to be able to shoot a lot, and especially with the prices of ammo today, right? It's ridiculous. So I've been trying to keep some of this, some brass bullets and powder, and primers are the big issue right now. But I really like to reload, and I like to shoot a lot. So I want my brass to last. I don't want to have to use new brass every time, which I don't know who does that if they reload. But I want to get as much out of the brass as I can. So annealing is the way to do that. So you can, if you can take that work hardness out of the casing, then not only will your brass last longer, but you'll get more consistent neck tension, which, you know, if you're a long range shooter, that's a pretty big deal. If you can consistently hold that bullet at a certain amount of tension here, because neck tension is just every time this goes off, of course, it explodes, then this gets wider, it gets bigger, so the bullet can come out. So when you put it back to a certain, so every time this goes off, it gets bigger, of course, so the bullet can come out. And then, oh, and it refocused, there we go. And then you bring it back down to size. Neck tension would be how much you squeeze this neck in so it holds the bullet. If you can have consistent neck tension, then you'll have more accurate shots, especially longer range. And when we talk about accurate shots, or when I talk about accurate shots, I'm talking about something that's on a longer range anyway. I mean, it's not a big deal to shoot at 100 yards and be pretty accurate, even though you do need a decent rifle. Well, about any rifle will do decent at 100. But all of these little minute details really show up when you get 500 and beyond, probably even closer to 1,000 and beyond. So anyway, I've got an annealing video. I'm going to show you how it is that this process works, and I'm going to show you a couple of different machines. One that I really like, and one that's really good. But I think it's with the coming on of the what they call annealing made perfect machines, then the old propane or butane powered flame that actually uses a flame to heat the brass is kind of becoming antiquated. But I will show you one of those that still works very well, and how it is that you can set it up and assure that you get the brass annealed properly. Now, to anneal it properly, you need to get the brass to a certain temperature. If you don't get it to a certain temperature, you're not going to get the desired results. And if you heat it up too much, you know how much is too much. But if you go too much, then you can destroy the brass as well. So doing that properly is real important. I'm gonna have a video coming up of that, and not only that, when I'm done annealing this brass, not this brass, right? I'm not shooting a 6.5 Creedmoor right now. I'm shooting a 6.5 PRC. But once I'm done with that brass and annealing it, then we'll walk through and we'll go through and see how I load for my 6.5 PRC. So let's head over and check out these annealers. Now, one more time, we're back. Look, I'm in this undisclosed area. It's kind of like, I guess around here, this is like Area 51 in Mississippi, if you will. I had to make a quick stop here. It's a place I'm going to show you later, but not right now. And I had to pick up something for the video that we're about to do, and we'll talk about that shortly. But this place that I'm at now, it's really nice, and we appreciate being able to use it. And I'll tell you about this later. All right, see ya. Bam! Here we are in the shop with the annealing machines. Now we have talked a little bit in the office about why it is that we would anneal, or actually what annealing does. We have been to the place of an undisclosed location somewhere here in Mississippi, and actually picked this machine up. So I have two annealing machines here. I'm going to talk about them a little bit. This here is called a bench source. So bench source makes this annealing machine, and it's a great annealing machine. It's one that uses propane or MAP gas or some other type of gas in order to shoot a flame into a certain place, and the case spins, and then as the case spins, it heats up to a certain temperature. Remember we said we need to bring that neck and shoulder area up to around 750 degrees. Now, let me show you how this one works. So this one works is you would put cases in it. So you put a couple of cases in it, or you would continually feed it. And as these cases move around into the flame, and I'm not going to turn the flame on, but as the cases turn around and go to the flame, when they reach this area into the flame, they spin, and then so they get heated evenly around. And you have to set that timing according to how long they sit in the flame to get the right temperature. Now, the way you do that is, I've heard some say that it's like you watch it until it gets to the case neck starts to turn red, but you can get way more precise than that. You can get some paint that they call, I think it's called Templac. I have some back there. I didn't bring it out because I'm not going to do that process. That process takes time. But you can take one of your cases here, so one of your cases that you're going to anneal, and you can paint down that case a little stripe of that Templac paint, and it's temperature sensitive is what it is. It's kind of some nasty stuff chemical wise, so you want to be careful messing with it. But you paint it, and then you I say play, but you're setting the time that it takes for the case to sit in the flame until that paint turns black. When that paint turns black, it's designed to turn that color at a certain temperature, and when it turns black, you know you've got the timing set right. So once you get that set, then you can put the machine on auto, and we'll turn it on. I'll turn it on for you, and so it has an auto setting, and also has a manual, but and I've got the time set really low, so it's not going to take long for it to run around. In fact, let me turn it down a little more. But this is how you do it. Once you have that set as to the time of how long each case sits in the flame, then you would turn it on auto, and the machine turns. You won't be able to see it great, but once it gets here, now the case is turning. Now that's when it gets into the flame, is right here, and it's turning. And it moves this way, and you'll see it fall off. Falls off there and into your bucket. So you don't have to touch it because it's going to be really hot. And that's how the bench source works. It's actually a great little machine. It's a great little machine for annealing, and when it comes to cost, it costs a lot less than the machine that we have sitting right here. Now, this machine here is called the AMP annealer. And this is an AMP is it's an acronym. It stands for Annealing Made Perfect. Annealing Made Perfect. Now, the idea behind that is that you need to get these case necks and shoulders to a certain temperature. You can get close to that, if not, about right with the Templac paint on the bench source machine, but you can get it absolutely perfect on this machine because it uses a don't get on to me if I'm wrong about this, because I don't know all the technical insides of this, but I believe it's an induction heating system in here. So it heats these cases by induction, so you get that perfect temperature every single time. And I'm going to show you how this thing works as well. I've actually already went through some brass and done it, but I left some over to show you what the process is like. And it's really very, very simple. So you turn the machine on. The machine would boot up and get ready. You have a display here that tells you everything. And now on these Mark II versions of this, you have different modes you can select. You can select either an amp mate setup, a standard, or an Aztec. Now the Aztec is if it's the first time you've ran brass on this machine, that is what you want to run. And I believe if you have a Mark I or a version earlier than the Mark II here, that you can actually get an upgrade to your software in the machine itself, to where you would have this Aztec mode. But you would start the Aztec mode, and then you have two different options that you can select, either run or analyze. And if this is the first time you've ran this lot of brass, this type of brass, then you would want to analyze. You go to analyze and hit start, and then you would input the pilot setting. The pilot is the piece right here that actually guides the case in so it holds it in the proper place. The pilot guide is according to cartridge, and you can go to AMP's website, and they give you all the information there. And you also need a program code. Now, for what I'm doing, this is 6.5 PRC Hornady brass, and if you know anything about 6.5 PRC, that ammunition has been unbelievably hard to come by these days. In fact, I got really lucky to get what I got here. It's not the best brass in the world. Hornady's okay. I have some Lapua on order, so hopefully that'll come in shortly. So anyway, but for this brass and the 6.5 PRC cartridge, that would be, we would input, your pilot is going to be number 20, and then the program would be C. And you would put in the pilot, you would put in the program, and then you would hit start, and then you're ready to analyze. Now what you do when you analyze is you would take, and here's a way that you get the brass into the machine. You take just a standard shell holder for reloading, and it goes inside of this little holder that they give you. It's right here, Annealing Made Perfect holder, and you clamp that shell holder inside of that holder, the annealing holder, and then that holds your case. And then you can take your case and set it right down inside. Right? And then you would hit analyze. You would hit start. It would analyze, and what it would do with that first piece of brass, this machine, is it would heat it up to the point of melting pretty much. And in fact, I can show you what it did because I did that earlier. This is what you end up with. Let's see if we believe we're focused in there, right? See if I can get the lighting right on it. You can see the neck of the case has been deformed. There's actually some holes that have came in it. So what that does is the machine itself analyzes this brass specific to what you're running, and then from there it's going to spit you out a code for running the rest of your brass that is the same as this brass. A lot of that has to do with neck thickness. So if you neck turn, you'll have to take that into account too. But the website for Annealing Made Perfect makes that all very, very easy to navigate. So now after you have analyzed your brass, you now have a code for what your brass is supposed to, or for how long your brass is supposed to be in there. And after you have sacrificed one piece of brass, which I hate to do with 6.5 PRC brass because it's so hard to find and it's so expensive, but you sacrifice one piece of brass so that the rest of the brass can be ran in just no time at all. No time at all. Now, once you have analyzed that brass and you have the code, I would suggest writing that code down somewhere for that brass lot so that you would have it on hand so that you can anneal it going forward. Now, that brings up another point. How often should you anneal? Some people say every other time that you load. Some people say every time that you reload. Some people say even longer periods in between there. You know, I think to be safe, personally, I'm going to anneal using one of these because of how fast this is. I'm going to anneal after on every reload. Every time I reload, I'll anneal before I size the brass. It just makes sense to me. I'm taking too many paper clips or clothes hangers or any kind of little pieces of metal and bend them and bend them and bend them until they break. We talked about that's what the brass does. When it explodes, it expands out to the size of the chamber, and then when we run it back through our dies to resize it, we are bending it back down again. So every time we work harden, we cold work this brass, we're making it a little bit harder. It's becoming a little more brittle. So with the process that's as easy as it is with this machine here, there is no sense in not annealing before every time that you resize. So now we have our code for our brass, and now I have 5 pieces of brass here. So you take a piece of brass, you put it in your holder, and you set it in the machine. The machine knows it's ready. You hit the start button. Now we have a piece of brass annealed. It's that fast, folks. It is that fast. And if you can see, there it is. You might be able to make out that little line there, but it is very hot. The brass is annealed just that fast. Drop that into, you want a container that can keep hot material, because these are really, really, really very, very hot. So again, one case in, start button, that's anneal, done. On to the next one. Next case in. The machine actually tells you when it's empty and when it's ready. So once the case is in, hit the start button turns red, now it's done, it tells you it's annealed, done. That fast. It's really amazing, folks, how fast this machine anneals this brass and takes that neck and shoulder up to that temperature of, like I said, it's around 750 degrees, just that quick. And on to the next one. One more in, hit the button, and it's done. 5 pieces of brass done that fast. I mean, there's no telling how many you could do. Of course, the machine does heat up a little bit on the inside, so there's a you can usually do about at least 200 pieces in a run, but it has fan system that will draw air in from this side and blow it out this side. But usually, if you run it for 30-35 minutes continuously, you want to let it sit and the fans run with it running for about 30 minutes to cool down, and then you can start over again. Now, like I said, I have done this brass earlier, and every single piece of brass in here has the same heat mark in the same place. So you get a uniformed annealing, and I think that's just wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful. This is the way to go. But this costs about 3 times as much as this. This is around $1,500. This is around $500, somewhere right in there. So you have to make that decision if you want to make that type of investment. I think that if you are going to do long-range precision shooting, I think it's an absolute must to invest into something like this. So that's annealing. That's what it's about. That's what it does. Now, after you anneal, you always want to anneal prior to sizing. So after you fire it, you want to deprime it. You don't have to clean it, not unless it absolutely needs it. So, annealing brass is something made extremely easy by this Annealing Made Perfect machine. Again, this is not mine. I have borrowed this. I do have one, hopefully coming here in the next little while. But I borrowed this from a very good friend of mine, someone that some of you all might know, and that would be Jeff Sherwood of Sherwood Tactical. I want to give a shout out to him. He has helped me out tremendously in my shooting ventures, and he makes one really, really, really nice rifle. So he makes custom rifles. Sherwood Tactical. I don't think you can find him. I don't believe he has a website, but he does have an Instagram. It's Sherwood Tactical LLC. So give him a follow over at Instagram, if you will. And if you have any questions, maybe about talking to him about a rifle, you can email me at harrisarms@yahoo.com, and I can get you in touch with him. Let me tell you something, folks. When he builds a rifle for a customer, it's not just what do you want? Let me put it together. Let me build the rifle. Here you go, and it's done. He is hands-on and makes sure that every rifle he builds shoots. If it doesn't shoot, then you're not going to get it. And I'll tell you what, that's customer service there. So shout out to Jeff Sherwood. Thank you for allowing me to use this for today to show the folks what this is about. And I appreciate you as you've helped me through my shooting. And we'll see Jeff at some point. I'm going to get him on here for an interview. So if you're interested in that, that should be coming up sometime soon. But other than that, that's all I have. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. Right? Give it a like, hit the subscribe, set the notifications. If you enjoy this type of content, and if you have anything else you want me to make a video about, maybe you haven't seen, you haven't heard, you have a question, put it in the comments below, or send me an email to harrisarms@yahoo.com. Other than that, I'll see you later. Bye.